Hello, it's Stacy here with Sacred Journeys Yoga, and I have decided to do a little gratitude chain or celebration of each other. I'm going to be interviewing people who have made an impact in my life. It might have been a small one, it might have been a big one, and I just want to interview them so they can share their story, share their journey, and offer my appreciation to how they made an impact in my life. And again, just like a little way to celebrate each other. And so my first guest is Jono Petrohilos. Hopefully I said his name right. So he's a guy who just posted a message on a Facebook group. It's like an online course creator Facebook group. And he put a little message out there saying, hey, anybody who needs help with copyright, message me and let's chat. And so I was busy working on the computer and I was thinking, you know what, I'm really struggling with words and my message and just wrapping my head around everything. And so I thought, why not? Let's take a chance. And I sent him a message and he got back to me right away. And we set up a time to chat. And I was just really inspired by that conversation with him. He helped me to kind of clear some things up in my mind, get a little bit more focused. And I just appreciated how he created a really safe and supportive environment for me to brainstorm. And I thought, you know, anytime I have one of those interactions where I feel like it's like, oh, this is the same feeling that I like to create for my own students, or that I get from perhaps like a yoga class, then I like to dive a little more into that. And so I'm going to be interviewing him. He can tell his story, and there's much more to him as you'll find out. And yeah, I hope you enjoy. So who are you? What do you have to offer, and what do you got going on?
Yes, good question. So to simplify, my name is Jono. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I currently run a business, Fitness Education Online, which helps, I provide online courses for personal trainers and fitness professionals that want to upskill. That's what I do in a nutshell. My audience is personal trainers, fitness professionals. They want to get better at what they do, usually around improving their business. Camp business, how to get better with your sales, how to get better with your marketing, how to get better with your social media. But I also have courses more functional as well, how to use kettlebells, how to use medicine balls, all that side of things. And then I also collaborate with other experts. So other experts in that field who have different expertise that I don't have. You know, maybe someone that's a specialist in training women, maybe someone that's a specialist in training pre and postnatal women, maybe someone that's an expert in nutrition, someone that's an expert in running a studio. I'll collaborate so their courses can go up on my website. That's essentially what I do in a nutshell. Does that make sense, Stacey?
So yeah, it sounds good. And so can you paint a picture of, you know, where you got started from? What was your life like before all of this, and what caused you to kind of pivot to this direction?
Yes, good question. How big do you want this picture to be? Because I can make it a full TED talk, or I can do it in about 5 or 6 minutes. So do you want the 5 or 6 minute one?
Maybe the cliff notes, yeah. So just
Okay.
just so we kind of know, you know, sometimes when we see people who are doing really well, we forget that you weren't always there. So just to give the people who feel like they're struggling, perhaps, a bit of hope.
Yes, well, I can definitely relate with those people because my whole life used to be a struggle. So, or not my whole life, I should say, my business used to be a struggle. So to simplify, when I started in the fitness industry, Stacey, I used to run a fitness boot camp. Now, it was part of a franchise, and there were 75 different locations all over Australia and New Zealand. And you were ranked based on how good you were, essentially, your retention and how many people you had coming. Now, 1 being the best and 75 being the worst. Take a guess what you think I was ranked, Stacey.
I don't know what to say, but
You can say it.
Tell me. Just
Take a guess. Take a guess. Take a guess. Take a guess.
well, given what you're saying, maybe in the lower section.
Yes, right down the bottom. I was dead last, number 75. So, and I knew number 74. 74 was not a good trainer. So the fact that they were better than me, yeah, that wasn't good for the confidence, right? And I had to go to a convention at the end of the year with all different 75 boot camp instructors. And I didn't want to go because I'm like, I don't want to go somewhere where I'm going to be the worst and there's going to be 74 people better than me. You know, it's nothing worse for my confidence. I've since changed my attitude. That's how I know I was in a bad position back then. If you said to me now, hey, Jono, go and hang out with 74 people that are better than you, shut up and take my money. I'll go and pay for that. I'll pay a mastermind to get me around that. But back in those days, I thought a little different. You know, my confidence was low and I thought it would just make me feel bad. So I didn't want to go. But I thought, you know what? If I don't go, I'm probably going to get fired. If I do go, maybe I'll get fired, but maybe I won't. I'll at least pretend to be interested. I'll take some notes. I'll sit up the front. I'll smile and nod, you know? So I went to this convention and it was actually the best thing that ever happened in my life. Because off the bat, I had to have a meeting with the franchise owner. And there was a couple at the time. And they were like, so Jono, what's going on? You're coming 75th. And I was like, yeah, but it's not my fault. You know, it's the competition. You know, there's all these other gyms and all these other free boot camps and 24-hour gyms and YouTube workouts. You know, it's too competitive. And I'm like, also, I live in Sydney. You know, I don't live in the Gold Coast or in Bali or anything where it's good weather all the time. It rains in Sydney, you know? And I was like, also, you guys are meant to be doing the marketing for me, right? The leads you're getting me are rubbish. You know, none of them are signing up. Yeah, what do you want me to do? And they were like, all right, Jono, we got good news and we got bad news. The bad news is as a boot camp instructor, you suck. You're coming 75th. But the good news is you can actually do something about it. You know, at the moment, you're sitting here blaming everyone else but yourself. You know, maybe it's not the competition's fault that you suck. Maybe it's your fault. You haven't done enough to be better than the competition. What, you know, what courses have you done? What conventions have you been to? And I was like, I got my original qualifications. That counts, doesn't it? And they're like, that's the bare minimum. That's what you need to do just to get in the industry. Obviously, if you do the bare minimum, you're going to be down the bottom. Then they were like, you know, our marketing sucks. Hey, Jono, maybe it's not maybe it's not the lead's fault. Maybe it's your fault. You're not good at sales. What sales books have you run? What business coaches have you hired? And also, if our leads are so bad, why don't you go out and do your own marketing? And I was like, good point. And they're like, the weather, you can hire out a school hall, you can rent out a school gymnasium for $20, but you're too big. You can solve your biggest problem for $20, but you're too busy sitting here blaming everyone else but yourself. And I was like, oof, hit home, you know? And they were like, look, you know, your job's safe, but what we want you to do is just for the next year, have a crack at this boot camp thing and just stop blaming everyone else. You know, if something comes up, don't blame someone else. Think, okay, what can I do to fix that problem and fix that problem and then see what happens. So that's essentially what I did for the next 12 months. You know, I identified all those different problems and then one by one fixed them, either read a book or did a course or went to a convention or hired a coach. And cut a long story short, went back to that same convention 12 months later. Now take a guess what I was ranked, Stacey.
Now you can a lot higher.
A lot higher. Number one. Right? Yeah. So I went from ranked 75th to number one. And I had 20 clients at the last one. And I had 100 clients in a year's time. And then a couple months after that, I actually opened up a second location. So I had one boot camp with 100 clients, one with 50. And then from there, you know, trainers were sort of asking me, Jono, how are you doing this? What marketing are you doing? What sales are you doing? What workouts are you doing? What retention are you doing? Yada, yada, yada. And I'd sort of give them a little tip here and there. But I was like, hold on. I feel like I could put together a course, an online course, that's better than anything else out there. You know, I've done all the courses now and they're all good. But I feel like with what I know and what I've put into practice, I could put together an ultimate course that's better than anything out there. And put it together and went really well. And then put another course, another course. And then here I am now. Essentially, I think there's about 30 different online courses that I run. We sell hundreds of them every single month and love my life.
Wow. Incredible. That is one extreme to the next. Really, really impressive. Um, so I guess, dare I say that, that failure, my next question is, what are some key um, people or events that helped you pivot and helped you make that big change? So from what I'm hearing, failure was one of your first key pivot points of either you sink or you swim. um, and you chose to swim, which is all the way to the top, which is incredible. Um, what do you think were there some people either in that year or maybe after the year as you progressed that have made a real big impact in your progression?
Yes, so many to list. Let me think of where to start. Should I list people or should I list learning points or a bit of both?
It could be, yeah, anything that really, jumps out. It could be a book, it could be a person, it could be just like something that happened, you stumbled on the street, like it could literally be uh, whatever
Okay,
speaks to you.
awesome. Okay, cool. So I'll start with one of my mentors, that franchise owner. Okay. So at the time, so I was a personal trainer and came from a very traditional background. My parents came from Greece. Well, they came as kids because they worked hard, go to college, and I thought that life was basically, you go to school, you study hard, you get into university, you study hard, you get a good job, and you work for someone else, and you make $70,000-$80,000 a year, working 9 to 5 for the rest of your life. That's what I sort of thought life was, and I didn't think you could go any further. A doctor or a lawyer, then you could be financially successful. And I heard the story of my franchise owner. So when I went, this was back in 2012, I was maybe 25, 26, and she was younger than me. She was like 23 or 24 or something. And I used to think, because I did the math, and I was like, it's franchise. So I was one location. It owned 75 of them. Okay. Each location would pay her, give or take, about $1,000 a week to run that location. So I did the math and I was like, hold on, this woman's making $75,000 a week. I don't make that in a year. I did the math. I'm like, she makes more in a year than I do in a decade. I'm like, this is, and then that first I was, I just thought she was a rich person. Must have been lucky, rich parents, good looking, always had money, yada, yada, yada. But then heard her story, and she was essentially a high school dropout. So she was always the dumb girl at high school, and she sort of played that role because she was dumb. It was, well, not, I shouldn't say dumb, because she wasn't good with school. She'd sort of get teased a little bit, and it was just easier to play the dumb card and don't care. I don't care about school. It's dumb. What I'm dumb. I don't care. It's not for me. She'd sort of play that card. Dropped out of high school and got a job at. Do you have Valley Girl there in America or in Asia? Do you have like a cheap women's store at the mall? What's like almost like a Kmart? Do you have Kmart or Target?
Yeah, we have. Well, do we still have Kmart? I'm not even sure if we still have
Oh,
Kmart, but we used to. Yes,
right.
familiar to me.
Target, something like that. She worked at one of those sort of stores, and she got fired from that store. All right, at like 18, 19 or something. And she's like, man, at that point, I was an absolute loser. Like high school dropout, no qualifications, fired from Valley Girl. I'm never going to be anything in life. And her partner at the time was very supportive. He's like, hey, get into personal training. You're good at fitness. You're good with people. Start a boot camp, yada, yada, yada. That's essentially what she did. And then, had a busy location, then opened another. Before long, she's got 75. And I was like, hold on. If this chick can do it, who's a high school dropout and got fired from Valley Girl, and she can make $75,000 a week, what the hell is my excuse? Why can't I do it? I was, and then that's what sort of motivated me. I was like, oh, okay, you don't need to be, a doctor or a lawyer or, an IQ through the roof. Everyday people can do it. If everyday people can do it. So that sort of opened my mind. I was like, okay, it's possible. I don't know how to do it, but at least I know it's possible. And the next thing was like, okay, if she can do it, let me just study what she learned, Well, how did her and her partner do this? And then I went to that convention to pretend like I was interested. from that point, I'm interested. I'm like, no, I want to know. Tell me exactly what you did. You're not just some rich, good-looking person that got this handed to you. You've done. You know something I don't know. What is it? And that'll bring me to my second point. What do you think of where to start? There's two really good points here. Okay, so one is just a simple quote that also helped with me. And this was the quote that I learned at that convention as well, which is simply, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Now, that was life-changing for me because at the time, I was trying to make out like I was the smartest. Hey, come and train with me. I've been to university. I'm an exercise physiologist, yada, yada, yada. No one cares, right? As soon as and also I was a bit self-conscious because in the fitness industry as well, it's not necessarily what you know, but it's like, you think it's the way people look at you. Oh, I'm not as big as the other trainer. I'm not as muscly. I'm not as ripped. I'm not as good looking. I'm not as good as an athlete. I don't have a gold medal, so I can't be as good as them. That's what used to go on in my head. But when I heard that quote, I was like, hold on. I think I can be the most supportive trainer ever. If I'm not the biggest, I'm not the smartest, I'm not the best looking, I'm not the best athlete, but I can care about my clients more than anyone else. So what can I do to share that I care about my clients? And as soon as I did that, my retention went through the roof. And it almost sounds silly now, it almost sounds silly saying, care about your clients more and your retention will be better. But I didn't understand how much of an impact it was. I thought people were more superficial, oh, he looks good, so I'm going to train with him, I didn't know that people actually are deeper than that, So that was a huge, and I've taken that in everything I do now, and that's really helped with my confidence because I'm like, I don't care. I could, when whatever I'm like, say it's a boot camp now, I could run a boot camp. You could have Arnold Schwarzenegger next to me. I don't care. I'll back myself over him because even though he's a bigger name and obviously knows a lot more than me, I guarantee I'll care about my clients a lot more than him. And I've just carried that into everything else that I did. So I think that's a powerful message as well. Instead of, my opinion is I think what's a better marketing and sales strategy is instead of trying to prove how good you are, prove how much you care about your clients. So that was another big one. And then a third one, which is, there's many different variations of this, but I learned it at that convention, and I've learned it different ways, from reading books and whatnot through, is, have you heard of the line? Have you heard of that? You play above the line and play below the line?
No, not specifically.
No. Okay, cool. So I've seen it around the place as well. If you listen to this, maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, but it's essentially a line. And if you're successful in anything, not just business, it's fitness, it's life, it's relationships, it's family, it's friends. If you're successful, you play above the line. If you're unsuccessful, you play below the line. And as soon as I heard this couple say this, I'm like, I'm listening. This is it. There's this one thing that I can do that will make me successful and everything. And literally I live my life by this formula now I can look at other people as well. And I can tell if they're going to be successful at something or whether they play above the line or below the line. And it's quite simply this. If you play above the line, you take responsibility for everything in your life. If you play below the line, you blame someone else. Now, and a good way to test this, and I'll ask the question to anyone listening this, anyone watching this, think of something that you want to be successful at, but you're not currently successful at. Okay, come up with something there. And then say to yourself, and even yell it out loud to the screen if you want, what's the reason why you're not successful in that thing? Now, if it was taking responsibility and blaming yourself, and you might say, hey, look, I just haven't done the work, I've been sleeping in, or, I haven't been going to the gym, then, hey, totally cool. You've identified it and you know how to fix the problem and you can do it. And before long, you'll be successful at it, right? But if you went the other way and you're like, well, it's not my fault. It's, my kids or my partner or the government or whatever it may be, you're never going to be successful at it. So, and it's one of those things like no one's ever perfect, right? But it's a good way to analyze where if I'm not where I want to be at something, I sit down, I write a few notes why I'm not going to be there. And if I see that I'm blaming someone else, then I can identify it. Be like, oh, okay, there it is. And if I can delve a bit deeper into that, both in the fitness side of things, when I was a personal trainer, and now in the business side of things, like say with the fitness side of things, if you want to get into shape, you got to take responsibility and accountability. And it's things like, and the word try comes in handy here as well. I've realized to take that word out of my vocabulary because what I realized when I was personal training, people would say things like, yeah, look, I want to, I'll be like, hey, you coming to training tomorrow? My clients will be like, yeah, I'm really going to try and come to training tomorrow. And I'm like, how the hell do you try and come to training? Like, you get in your car, all good intentions to go to the gym, and then you just end up at KFC. Like, how does that happen, you know? Or like saying now that I help entrepreneurs and personal trainers, where I think the secret to success is reading, right? If you read for an hour a day, you're going to be miles ahead of your competition. And I'll say that to entrepreneurs. They'll be like, yeah, I'm going to try and read a book every week. And I'm like, how do you try and read a book? You know, you open it up and it just transforms into Chinese or something, or you open the book and the wind just keeps blowing it closed. So that's my the third thing there is just whatever it is you're doing, don't blame someone else. Even if deep down you think it is their fault, like it's not going to help you get to where you want to get anyway. So you may as well just say, all right, that's what it is, but hey, what can I do? So yeah, they're my three things.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, if I can share that try, you know, I can hear myself when I've said it at times, and the picture that came into my head was like, oh yeah, I'll try. I'll put it on my to-do list, and that's about as
Down the
far as it
bottom.
gets. It's like that try. It got on that long to-do list of things that, you know, eventually I'll get to one day, which,
Mm.
you know, so yes, that try is just like, you have the intention of doing it, but you don't actually have um, the commitment to do it. It's just the
It's
idea
like,
of doing it.
yeah, it's like, and a few other ways to put it. It's almost like it gives you an excuse not to do it.
Yeah.
Like say let's use the most simple one, which is the gym as an example. If I was like, hey, Stacey, you coming to the gym tomorrow? If you say, yeah, hey, look, I'll try and be there, it sort of gives you an excuse. You can now back out because you haven't told me you're going to be there. You said you're going to try and be there, so you sort of got an excuse. And what I reckon, and it just doesn't really help anyone. Like you would have been better, and a few things, you would have been better off saying, hey, Jono, I'm not going to go for a few different reasons. Because by saying that, at least I'm not waiting for you and trying to text you. And also sometimes you might have a breakthrough yourself. You might be like, oh man, I don't want to go. Why don't I want to go? But my goal is to get fit. If I want to get fit and I don't want to go to the gym, what the hell is wrong with me? I'm going to go. So I think that's, and that's another, I guess, philosophy of mine is it's either can I swear on this or no?
Sure.
Probably not. It's either a fuck yeah or a no.
Yeah.
So if someone says, hey, do you want to do this? If it's I'm thinking in my head, oh yeah, maybe, yeah, I could do that, I'm just going to say no. You know, listen, if I'm not super passionate and aligned with me, I'm just going to say no because it's not going to help anyone by me doing it half-assed.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So, do you do much yoga or anything in the realms of the yoga world at all, or would you consider
Ooh.
yourself spiritual?
Okay, let me think. So yoga, not so much. I've dabbled in it
Yeah.
because I like the idea behind it. But for some reason, there's something I can't stay still for long enough, you know, or I can't. Okay, that's a different thing around the yoga side. I think the closest I could get there is probably around meditation
Mm.
and visualization. So I like to move and I like to visualize and meditate. And I know they're all different components of yoga, but for some reason I don't put them together and do it as yoga. But I would say, yeah, I like to move. I like to visualize and I like to meditate. Any? Do you want me to expand on any of those at all, or?
I was going to share. So one of the interesting things about, I guess, just life and people, and coming from this yoga background, and something that sparked me connecting with you was kind of this theme where I think there's a lot of people that I connect with that wouldn't regard themselves as yogis.
Mm.
And so that's just why I assumed, but I wanted to actually ask you first. But what many of the things that you've talked about, in my personal opinion, are very aligned with the philosophy of yoga. So the fact that you are asking yourself questions, you're doing that work, you're like, hey, wait a second, why did I say no to that? Or why am I saying try? Or, So yoga, it encourages you to explore, it encourages you to ask those questions and be like, where is all this coming from? And that's sitting with meditation too. You can ask questions, you can allow downloads. But also that I loved what you said about, thinking more about caring about your client.
Mm.
And that's huge. That's also one of the principles of yoga, is bringing that like self-love, that the light in me honors the light in you, and seeing the, the beauty and love in each other. And that's one of the things that stood out when you and I connected, was I felt so supportive. So I felt so supported. So, that's like holding, in yoga, we call it holding a sacred space. And so for my company, Sacred Journeys Yoga, that's what it's about, is seeing our lives as a sacred, continuous journey, like continuously holding that sacred space. So I just love that, all of the things that you're talking about, maybe some people wouldn't put those two connections together, but for me, I'm like, you're speaking the same language as a yogi would, or, from what I understand with philosophy. And that was the thing that stood out, was just, yeah, I felt really supported. I felt really heard. And I really did feel like you cared. And that's what I was in awe of when you shared, hey, anybody need help with this? I'm here. You just opened yourself up and, allowed the connection with one another. And that's, to me, that's like yoga. So whether you're bending over backwards or you're doing whatever, to me, you're a living example of what yoga, the traditions, are really representing in the grand scale of it. And that's kind of one of the things that I want to share with people, that, like, let's break the dogma. Let's break what it, kind of like oh, I need to be stronger. I need to look like this to be, successful. I need to do this. And really, in the end, what it sounds like is you just needed to be a human being who cares about people and cares about yourself, and is brave enough to be like, hey, am I making excuses today? Or am I, that's doing yoga, that's doing the work. And that's, I'm glad that I've connected with you, because that's kind of what I was feeling from you. So yeah, I just want to, I really appreciate what you're sharing. And so with that, I think, is there any last kind of like key tips or that like takeaway that you want people to leave with from this interview?
Good question. I run a podcast myself, and I always finish with that question too.
Okay.
And for some reason, I don't have an answer here. I guess, let me think. I guess what I would just finish with is, if there's something you want to do in life, I think that anything is achievable, right? Whatever it is you want to do, you got a dream, great. Just firstly, come up with that outcome, be like, all right, hey, what do I want to do? Let's even use my story back there. Great. I want to be number one in the boot camp franchise. Okay, cool. Step number one is setting that goal, so I know what it is. And then from there, it's simply like, all right, what have I got to do to reach that goal? Let me try this. Let me try this. Let me try this. Some things are going to work. Some things aren't going to work. But either way, just even by doing things, you're going to get closer, or you're at least going to learn. That's what I'll finish off with. My favorite quote is actually this one here. I never lose. I either win or I learn.
I never lose. I either win or I learn. That's
So
brilliant.
with that attitude, you could just try anything, right? Go and do it, and you're either successful, or if you failed at it, the only reason you failed is if you didn't learn something. And at least you're going to be like, well, I'm not going to date that person again, or, whatever it may be.
Totally. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, that's what we're, even doing in yoga. You try some crazy poses, you don't quite get it, and maybe you even fall down, and it's all, I always come back to the idea of being a kid. Like, we used to play all the time. We'd fall, we'd laugh. Actually, we purposely would fall because it was more fun than, standing. So yeah, I love that idea. Yeah. So thank you so much. This was a wonderful experience. It's been wonderful getting to know you. So to let the listeners know, if they want to connect more with you, just some key key ways and key offerings that they can connect with you.
Yes. So best thing to do is probably follow me on social media. Facebook and Instagram are my two favorites. You can follow me on Tinder as well. I'm quite active on there, but I don't know what my username is on there. So
Okay.
probably go with Facebook and Instagram. Unfortunately, my family's from Greece, so I'm the only one that has my first name and my surname in the world. It's Jono Petrohilos. There's none of them exist in the world, so I don't have that problem. But trying to spell those two, Jono and Petrohilos is quite a hard one. I think I need to be like a Gary V or something, and just change my name. But at the moment, it's Jono Petrohilos on both Facebook and Instagram. Even if you just type in Jono and then a P, I'm probably the only one.
Awesome. And I'll leave the link below as well. And yeah, so thank you again. And I do encourage, so this is also kind of like a pay it forward, a little gratitude chain that you don't have to, but I do encourage, and I know you do podcasts a lot anyway. Yeah, if there's anybody that is coming up in your life, in your memory, that you're like, you know what, I just want to pay gratitude to that person, then I encourage you to spark up a conversation and interview with them, and yeah, just kind of show your gratitude for what they've offered in your life and how they've made an impact. And hopefully we can keep this this chain of gratitude and celebration of each other going.
Yes, love that. I might even send out a few random Facebook DMs today, just thanking some people. Hey, you changed my life. Thank you. Because it's one of those things, I'll probably take it for granted, right? Oh, this person changed my life. They probably changed heaps of people's lives. They don't care about me. But man, if that doesn't change you, that doesn't make you have a good day, something's wrong with you, right? Getting a message from someone saying, you changed my life.
Yeah. And that's what started for me. I had some people back in high school, because high school was kind of like a totally different world than what I live in now, and
I've seen those American TVs, I've seen the American TV shows. It's an interesting experience, high school in America.
yeah, so I kind of just write that off. And I had one day somebody from high school reach out to me who I had no idea was like following me or anything, and was like, you know what, I just have to say thank you for doing what you've been doing. I follow you, because he never liked anything. There was never, and he's like, but you've really changed, you've inspired me to go on a different path and all this. And that I was like, whoa, I had no idea. And so sometimes, yeah, you're kind of feeling like, oh, I'm not making a difference in the world. But just because people are quiet, or just because nobody says anything, doesn't mean you're not. So it is nice, for us who are, a little bit more awake to what is going on, to remember, like, yeah, maybe even if it's just some people who made an impact way back when, and just to say, hey, like, thanks for that one day that you took me for coffee. Because it can, like you said, it can make a huge impact. And yeah, that's the whole purpose, is just to uplift and share the love with each other.
Awesome. Well, happy I could help.
Yes, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.